Cybersecurity remains a huge business for companies and vendors looking to make things more secure, as seen by the recent Black Hat conference held in Las Vegas. We're going to get an update on what topics are top of mind for IT security professionals next up on Today in Tech. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Joining me on the show today is Joan Goodchild. She is a writer, editor, and the founder of Cyber Savvy Media. Sorry about that. And as well as the former editor-in-chief of CSO Online. Welcome to the show, Joan.
Thank you. Thanks.
It's good to have you here. This is the first time I think you've been on this particular show.
Yep.
But you used to do videos with us back in the old IDG days as well.
I did,
and
yep.
It's good to have you back. So you recently attended Black Hat conference in Las Vegas. For those who might not know the show, what is the purpose of the show? What goals do they have?
So Black Hat is a huge cybersecurity professional conference that takes place every year in Las Vegas. It's actually one of 3 shows that takes place over the course of the week. There's B-Sides Las Vegas, Black Hat, and then DEF CON. And they're all together kind of known affectionately as Hacker Summer Camp. And so, generally the objective of all of them is education, professional development, learning for cybersecurity individuals who want to learn more for their career.
And how many years have you been going, or did you start in the early days of the show?
So I think the show is more than 20 years old now. And I've been going for about 15 years on most summers. There have been some summers I missed. And then, of course, during the pandemic, they did a virtual only event. But yeah, I've gone to many, many more than I think I can count at this point.
Yeah, because nothing says fun like August in Las Vegas.
It's surprisingly crowded there.
Why did they pick August? Is it just because they could get the cheap hotel room rates, or?
I don't know. It's always historically been there, as far as I know. So I don't know, but there's a lot of tourists there too. There are long lines all over the place. So they're not the only ones that are doing Vegas in August.
I think I did Vegas in July once on vacation after going to so many years to CES and other types of tech shows, and I didn't like it at all. No. July in Vegas just did not match with me.
No, you step out of that airport and it's like walking into an oven. It really is.
Yeah.
It just smacks you in the face.
So has the show changed over the years? Have you noticed a sense of either the types of people that go to the show? Is it now vendor centric versus maybe security professionals or hackers, as it were?
So, like I said, 15 years on and off most summers. I mean, what I sense about the difference now is that there's a different kind of energy at the conferences. I mean, I didn't go to the other 2 companion conferences this year. I have in the past, but at Black Hat specifically, is where I was this year. And there's just a real energy of education and collaboration. It used to be back in the day you'd go and it was kind of, collectively the different cons were this sort of like edgy place, and you had to kind of watch your back and worry about being put on the wall of sheep, which is a thing that they did at DEF CON. I don't know if they're still doing it because I haven't been in a few years, where they put up your name or your handle to let you know that you'd been owned and, that somebody had hacked into your device or whatever. But it's really, again, like I don't sense that kind of thing anymore. There's a lot of really young cybersecurity professionals who want to learn and get their feet wet and learn more for their career. I sat with even students at lunch one day and, talked to them. They, still in college, are interested in it. And I think a lot of those kind of younger, edgier, the original hackers have grown up and they're very passionate about what they do. And so I've really sensed, a real deep passion for collaboration and education and trying to educate this next generation of cybersecurity experts.
So does that mean it's more like RSA in terms of the content, or is it the RSA little brother?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think RSA has, RSA is also one that's sort of evolved over time. And, because in the industry, everybody likes to be cynical and they'll say, oh, this has changed and it's only a shell of its former self. I mean, things have evolved and the kinds of content that they cover over the course of the cons has changed somewhat. But at its heart, Black Hat is still really an educational conference. So you go to these sessions and a lot of them are, demonstrative and show you, how certain exploits were pulled off often so that you can understand what vulnerabilities exist in certain types of technology. People go based on different tracks, depending on what their career focus is,
Right.
to learn about different ways that things are being done so that they can try and help learn things for defense.
Yeah, and so I think you answered the next question. When you go to a show like this, where's the most value? Is it the show floor with companies that are announcing new products, or is it the conference sessions, educational sessions where you can learn things or find out what the trends are? Like, is there a balance, or do you just go straight for the conference?
I mean,
part?
I'm a content person, so I
Yeah.
love to sit in on the sessions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I find that they're very valuable in terms of just understanding emerging technologies and emerging themes. I like to see what people are talking about and, what might be new and different. For example, I remember a few years ago sitting in on a lot of sessions that were about kind of the intersection between DevOps and security and the need for those two teams to really start collaborating more, building security into the outset of the software development lifecycle, those kinds of things. And, that's turned into a very pervasive and common practice now called DevSecOps.
Yep.
But, I remember those early kind of conversations, and a lot of that took place at Black Hat. And, of course, this year, one of the big themes that emerged was around AI.
Yeah, that's where you predicted my next question. We're going to get right into what are the trends. I'd imagine everyone's talking about generative AI and ChatGPT and things like that. So is there concern? Is there excitement? What's the mix of the topics?
Yeah, there's both. I mean, there's definitely both. I mean, there was one of the first keynotes was actually called "Guardians of the AI Era: Navigating the Cybersecurity Landscape of Tomorrow," and that was by a security researcher named Maria Markstetter. She's the founder of Azeria Labs. So that went into both like the potential benefits and the risks of the technology, and how it's going to be used to kind of navigate new kinds of attack surfaces. There was also another session about how AI can actually help with cybersecurity. And that was a little more kind of high level about how executives need to be prepping their organization to try to take advantage of this technology for cybersecurity practices.
Yeah. Were there other trends beyond just AI, or is this now a AI security kind of conference? Or I always with the hype around AI, you always get a sense of like, well, first of all, there's the people that are in AI that have been like, hey, we've been here, we've already been here for 20 years, and now all of a sudden this little ChatGPT thing comes along, and so that's why we now have to call it Gen AI or generative AI. I can imagine that the security people are probably the same way. Like if you've been in business to try to stop ransomware for so many years or malware, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey guys, we're still here.
Well, I mean, absolutely. And with ChatGPT, that kind of opened this whole new door now. But the reason why it did, of course, is because when something goes mainstream, then it does become security's problem, and there are so many more projects now that the security teams need to be aware of, and even, projects that security teams themselves are using to harness AI that, research has shown are still inherently insecure and that the security leaders need to be mindful of. So, while it's certainly not a new technology, the applications that it's being used for are new and, and it's concerning and risky, but also promising and exciting. I would say another thing I noticed though, no, it wasn't all just AI, but one thing that there were several different sessions that were kind of more sort of like outside the scope of necessarily like the technology and the tools and that sort of thing. There was one on neurodiversity in cybersecurity. There was one on climate change and cybersecurity, and again, like the idea of doing different talks that aren't necessarily about the tools and technology isn't new. I remember sitting in on one at RSA years ago about InfoSec burnout and careers and so forth. So it's not a new concept, but I definitely noticed that there's a lot more attention now paid to some of these kind of other topics that aren't just about how you're practicing cybersecurity.
All right. And when you go to a show like this, do you walk away kind of going, oh man, security's messed up? Or is it one of those things where the industry is, you've heard this phrase, it's a bunch of hammers looking for nails. Like they almost make up the fear, uncertainty, and doubt to try to get people to buy their products. Years in the cybersecurity space, you must have experienced that. Is it still like that? Or do you still get excited, after coming back from a show like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I sense is a lot of cautious optimism, and that's been the case.
Cautious optimism, I like that.
That's the case, insecurity usually. But, we know it's tough for people in this industry. They're always fighting an uphill battle. As the more that security practitioners innovate, the more the criminals innovate and find new ways to get ahead. So that they're always exploiting different victims. But, again, like with that optimism, there's still, like I said, that energy that I'm observing more and more when I go to cons now. There's a huge amount of passion of, we're going to help to educate this next generation of cybersecurity experts and professionals and so forth, and really kind of try to get ahead and help solve these problems for people.
Do you get a sense that shows like this are where you can find out what's coming next in terms of the trends, or whether it's attacks, or is that more of a DEF CON, some of those smaller ones? Because I read some coverage of DEF CON, and the big news was that somebody had discovered the iPhone command control. You could hack in through that little pop-up thing. And
right.
It didn't sound very exciting to me, but
maybe
that's I guess in the space.
It might have been an off year, but I do think so. DEF CON's the show where there's more showboating and showing off and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, I remember again, years ago going to one, it was more than 10 years ago. And unfortunately, the late great security researcher, his name was Barnaby Jack, he's no longer with us, had pulled off this session or talk or presentation called jackpotting, where he essentially showed how easy it was to reverse engineer the operating system of an ATM so that it could spit out cash. And that was the headline that year.
Yeah.
A lot of really smart guys who are kind of doing things that, sort of maybe straddles the line between white hat and we'll say gray hat, not necessarily black hat, but, stuff that could necessarily be used for nefarious purposes. But that's not why they're doing it. They're doing it again with an eye towards education and to say, like, look, this is how easy it is to do. But there's also, a lot of bravado among people in the industry too. They want to kind of show that thing off. So, usually there are some headlines like that come out of it.
On the ChatGPT side, there were people that were trying to prove that they could get the AIs to admit that it was a human or something like that, or they were doing prompt injection type things with it to try to see if it could make the results weird or something like that. And then someone hit a credit card number in, and they were trying to see if they could hack the credit card number, and someone said that they did, and then the guy was like, nope, that's not the number. So that, but then I sort of stopped paying attention to the show. One other article I read this year was that it did seem a little, the show was a little downplayed a little bit, or a little quieter, because there been a lot of security layoffs in the space. I know there's been a lot of tech layoffs in the industry altogether. Has the security industry also been seeing these?
Yeah, the security industry has not been spared. There's definitely been a lot of layoffs among vendors, and so. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing what I saw, for example, last week when I was kind of looking across a lot of the social media channels that I monitor, for example, was some criticism like, hey, why is this vendor putting all this money into this really expensive, showy booth when they just laid off X amount of people? Why are they hosting these big, elaborate parties when, they just had to lay people off? And, there's people in security are not afraid to voice their opinion about things like that. And again, there can be some cynicism. So depending on the positioning of the vendor and what was going on with them, things didn't always hit right last week with what we were doing at Black Hat, because it has been a difficult time in security as well as tech general.
Is there still a feeling of in corporate boardrooms that security projects will generally be approved and you don't have as many hurdles as you would for maybe deploying a collaborative software platform or something that's less important as security? Like, is it still a blank check that gets stamped?
No. And I think that's interesting that you have that perception, because it's kind of hotly debated, especially when I first started to write about security when I was with CSO years ago. One of the big issues we wrote about was the challenge of security getting funded for things, because it's considered a cost center,
Okay.
And so, increasingly CISOs are asked to kind of demonstrate ROI for what they're doing and stuff. But amid this climate, it is very difficult, and the budgets are not getting increased. In fact, they're getting asked to do less with more. There was actually one session called Cybersecurity Maximum Attention Minimum Budget that looked that
Wow.
that even though they have a high profile in an organization, the CISOs are still kind of really struggling at this point to be able to get budget. But yet every study that comes out, cost of a breach just came out. Breach costs still at an all-time high. Ransomware continues to be a huge problem for people. So certainly the crime's not going away, but getting the budget right now is tough.
Yeah. Speaking of ransomware, I saw another story about how hackers are now shifting to customer service. I think I sent that to you where. So I've stolen your data.
Yeah.
And instead of just encrypting it automatically and then demanding ransom, I said, well, look, hey, Joan, I haven't encrypted it. The quicker you send me the money, not only will I give you the data back, but now here's all of the steps of how we did it. Like they're actually telling these people how they did it now as a way to try to that boggles my mind.
Well, it is, it's an industry. I mean, for years now, you've been able to go onto the dark web and buy exploit kits and all kinds of different things that the criminals can use that just, it's like full service. Here you go. Here, we'll give you the tools that you need to do it. And now you just need to set it up and go ahead and rip people off. But it was actually in the news this week is a widespread breach of various LinkedIn accounts, and those criminals, it's not even the same as like, oh, I'm encrypting your data, and they're trying to extort money out of people, but it's really only a few $100s in order to give people access to their profile back. So there's just very different levels.
The
now.
value of my LinkedIn account, I don't even $5 maybe, because I could create a new one.
You can start a new one, but
I guess I'm not as popular as someone who might have thousands of followers and things like that. I could see targeting the really popular people
and I think
on
I can
LinkedIn.
see it for people in certain professions too. Like if you're in sales or something like that, you're doing a ton of outreach on there and a lot of valuable contacts that are hard to get back again. So, I agree with you. It doesn't seem as devastating as it sounds, but I'm sure it is for some people.
Yeah. Do you get a sense from these shows of that you can, whether or not you can tell who might have the upper hand between the battle of the black hats versus the white hats in terms of, or it's a constant race, right?
Yeah.
Someone makes someone does a hack, then they defend, then, it's back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, I think when it comes to that, there's really no question that it's just a constant cat and mouse game.
Yeah.
And, people in security are constantly fighting a tough battle. It's a really hard job. You know what I mean? That really has a very difficult way to measure success because you're always trying to, there's always something new some fire to put out or something to defend against or some alert that needs to be investigated. So whether or not the black hats have the upper hand is a hard question to answer. But I know that they're always keeping the white hats on their toes.
Okay. All right. So now we're gonna jump into the story time here.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you had an experience at the show where your laptop was stolen.
Yep.
And of course, does this happen a lot at the show? Not you personally, but in general, there's this rule like watch your credit. If you're at DEF CON, for example, you don't want to. They don't accept credit cards, right? You have to pay in cash, I think, for that show.
At DEF CON? That's a good question.
I think I read that it's now cash only.
Okay, yeah.
And so there's always, concerns about breaches and passwords and things like that. But so you had your laptop stolen, and it must be a real pain considering this was done at a hacker conference. So take us now. There's a happy ending-ish type of ending to this. So I want to give it away. I want you to start from the beginning. Tell me what happened because I've got so many questions here, and I found out about this because you put this on your Facebook account.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've been covering security again for almost 20 years, and one of the things that I used to write about a lot for CSO is social engineering, which is basically hacking humans. How criminals pull off certain exploits by essentially fooling you. That could be anything from getting you to click a phishing link to getting you to let them into a door that's supposed to be locked and that sort of thing. So. You would think I would know better. Anyway, so I...
it's very bold of you to actually come on the show and talk about this.
So
because you've written about this for years.
Right. And I also, when I go to Black Hat stuff, I usually meet up with old friends and go to parties and stuff like that. I wasn't doing any of that night. No drinking. I had gone to get an In-N-Out burger because that was another pilgrimage of mine when I go there. And I was waiting for my Uber to come, and Uber alerted me asked me if I wanted a shared ride because it would get me there quicker, and it was $5 cheaper. I said, sure, fine. I've done it a million times. And I get in the Uber, and there's somebody in the back seat, which was expected. It was a shared ride, and it was a young man who told me that he was there for Magic Con, which was lie number one because I looked that up later. Magic Con is not happening in Las Vegas this month. And then he told me that he has a real passion for magic and he loves card games. And then he offers to show me a few card tricks. And it's just,
and are you sitting next to him at this point?
Right here.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so my bag with my laptop, which again, I'm a security minded person. I never unzip that laptop. I always keep my cell phone, in a special place underneath my shirt when I'm around, because I'm always worried about it getting lifted. So the bag is right in front of me and between my feet. He's showing me his magic tricks with the cards, and it's just the typical, like, pick a card, it bumps to the top, whatever. I think he goes through it 3 times, and I was like, yeah. And then we talked about it a little bit more. He claims he was a rabbinical student studying at Yeshiva University in Brooklyn, New York, just in town for the con. And
so he had a really good story.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know if this is true or not, right?
No idea.
Okay.
And so then the driver drops him off at MGM Grand, where he claims he was going to see David Copperfield. So it was a really, really, So I was exhausted. I go home, don't think anything more about it. And then the next day I go to pack up to go back to the venue for the second day of the conference, and my laptop is gone. And then I proceeded to freak out. Now, the day before I had given a presentation. And so that was the last place I physically saw it. And I thought, okay, naturally I just probably left it there, whatever. I go back. Nope, sorry, haven't seen it. I spent the entire day running all over the place, visiting security, visiting Lost and Found multiple times. No one turned it in. And then at the end of the day, as a last ditch effort, I had Uber contact the driver. You can't do that yourself.
Yep.
And that's when I started to get a bunch of creepy phone calls.
Oh, okay.
So the first phone call was somebody claiming that they had my laptop and it was going to cost me $300 to get it back.
Wow. Okay. So it's a sort of a ransomware attack here, or ransomware physical.
Yeah. They're holding it hostage.
Yeah.
And then I said, does Uber know you're doing this? Because this is all new to me. He said, yeah, that's the rule. And I said, okay. I said, what's your name? And he gave me the name, the wrong name, not the name of the driver, because you do get your driver's name when you order an Uber.
Yeah.
And then I said, where did you drive me? And he couldn't remember. So then I hung up on him. And then I got 2 more calls like that. And then by the time this last person called me at midnight, he had the name of the driver.
How did they get your phone number?
Well, Uber connects them.
Okay.
So you contact Uber and say, I think I've left an item, and then they provide your phone number.
Yeah.
And so Uber later told me that the reason why they thought I got multiple calls was because he's running some scheme and had shared my number with multiple people to try and see who could successfully get the laptop back to me and get the money out of me.
Yeah.
So when he finally called and identified himself and he recalled the whole card game thing and everything, I said, yeah, okay. He said, it's going to cost you $100 to get it back. So apparently the price was going down because I wasn't buying it.
It's like the scalper outside the stadium, and the price is going down the closer we get to the concert, right?
So I said, okay, come meet me. Walked down to the hotel lobby, immediately looped in a very nice, tall, intimidating security person. And I said, my laptop's being held hostage by Uber. They're trying to extort me.
Yeah.
And so when the guy pulls up and waves me over, the security guard accompanied me. And the guy rolls the window down and the security guard goes, why are you trying to charge her $100, bro? And the Uber driver tries to wave him away. And the security guard goes, no, hand over the laptop right now. So he passes it out the window. And then on my way out, the Uber driver goes, that's it. I told you, I was supposed to be home with my family right now. And I drove this all the way over here for you. And I said, you stole this from me. That's why you have it.
So do you think that the magic card, the magic trick guy and the driver were working together?
Yeah, that's what I think is going on. I think he probably gets maybe a cut of some money from the guy. I haven't 100% figured it out what the angle is, but I did look this person up. I'm not going to say their name or whatever for legal reasons, but he has a profile on LinkedIn because he's either the stupidest criminal in the world or a fantastic.
So if you're a hacker, go after this guy on LinkedIn, right? Like, it's
him. It's his face, his name, whatever. But there's absolutely no way that wasn't part of the whole grift, so to speak. And they're running he probably goes right back and gets him, and then they do it all again. And I don't know, he gets a cut of the profits or something.
Do you think did they lift the notebook out of the bag?
So what I think happened is, again, it was
distracted
in front of me. It was a little very small car. Magic tricks I'm watching. Yeah. And the thing's right there in front of me. And I think what happened is that he distracts people with magic tricks, and the driver reaches back and unzips the bag and pulls it out.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Did you did get your In-N-Out burger, right?
The In-N-Out burger, as always, was great. I was flying high until that moment.
And you went to the police station. You went to the police station.
Yes, and then that's the other part. I went down. I spoke to the police, and I hadn't put together all the pieces.
Was this after or before?
This was before I realized what exactly had happened. I thought it had perhaps been, the best I could do was, it's probably was stolen In-N-Out burger. I mean, again, I'm very security minded. I don't leave the thing sitting, but I couldn't think think of anything else. And I thought, at least they'll have surveillance video. So I filed a police report. They were going to get in touch with In-N-Out Burger. And then all of this went down after that. So the next day I updated the police report. And that's kind of where it sits. And I should also mention, too, that I've reached out to Uber twice for commentary to let them know I'll be speaking about this. And I've heard nothing back. So I don't know how often, I don't know how common this is. I've tried to do some research on that too, but yeah.
So, I mean, it was definitely social engineering that sort of, well, it was more of a distraction. But it was social engineering. It was a magic trick that went wrong.
Yep, they got me. There's no question.
Yeah. And I guess don't share an Uber.
I was going to say, people. As I said in my post,
what lessons learned?
My lessons learned are I won't ever be taking shared rides again.
Yeah.
I won't ever be physically putting that thing even an inch away from my body, because that will have to just, I'd keep my laptop on my lap now.
Yeah.
If, my laptop bag on my lap. And just keep your guard up. You know what I mean? It's the oldest bit of advice in the book. And, I travel a lot, and I thought I knew what I was doing. But
you know what it is? You didn't, it was zero trust. You did not have that zero trust
I did, right.
security mentality that I think everyone needs to have now.
Right.
Well, and then you did get the laptop back now, and I don't know. So at that point, that's when I contacted you to be on the show. You said you weren't going to open the laptop, and you were going to try to make sure that it wasn't, hacked or anything like that.
Right. And I did. Yeah.
And everything's fine.
Yeah, I brought it home. I didn't use it at all for the rest of my time. I just basically immediately powered it down, so it was a brick for the rest of the travel. And then when I came home, I did some forensics on it, ran in addition to running a scan and so forth to see. So it appears to be okay. I'm still, of course, like I said earlier, cautiously optimistic, but I still put a freeze on my credit and all the other things that you need to do when you're afraid that any of your information has been leaked. So, and it's unsettling. It's just unsettling when something like that happens. So,
but they messed with the wrong person.
Turnabout is fair play, as I say.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that you were able to get it back, and this does have a happy ending, and it's.
Right.
It's weird that it happened at a security show.
Well, because that's the ultimate takeaway too. Is that I thought for years I've been going to these conferences and I worry about the security there. I think I feel safer walking around there than I would on the Las Vegas Strip at this point. So.
Wow, that's a great story, Joan. So thank you very much for coming on the show, telling us about that, but also about a lot of the trends that are going on in the security space.
Sure, anytime.
That's all the time we have for today's episode. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, add your comments below. Tell us if you're going to go to MagicCon, for example. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.